Welcome to the Employment Wednesday podcast with Yvonne Shabangu. Have you heard of the scripture Hosea 4 verse 6? My people perish because of the lack of knowledge. The same applies to your career. When you don't know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, you are likely to make wrong career choices. But worry not. Employment Wednesdays is here for you to offer you all the answers relating to your career and offer you strategies to develop your career. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Employment Wednesdays. In case you're wondering where Yvonne is today, well, she couldn't host this episode, mainly because our guest today is somebody even she could not actually interview. The guest is a very great person. Actually, you might know her very well. It's the wonderful Yvonne Shabangu. You know, in my rehearsals, I actually did that exact sound.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay! Okay,
I
we're in
sent it to a
sync.
friend, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "That's what you'd follow." We actually also thought of getting like a audience behind just for that whole vibe, like to just have that yay. I think we should have actually also gotten you the Dr. Phil walk-in entrance.
Oh,
You've
yes.
seen that, right?
You know what? We're growing. We're going to get there.
I think he does like it when he's leaving, but we could have done it for you when you come
Nah.
through.
No, we're going to get there.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I think
for
you're
having
usually
me.
the one that's saying that. So how does it feel being told welcome to the show that you built?
It feels great and it's nerve-wracking because I
Yeah.
don't know what to expect.
I mean, that's the whole point. We're here to torture you like you torture your guests. We're here to make you go through the fire. So I think as an icebreaker, because I know you love those, I just thought of asking you, I mean, how's the season been for you? Just how do you feel about the overall episodes that you've went through, the guests that you've had? Like, how's it been?
It's been so beautiful. Actually, I was thinking about it. I thought about it. I think it's the greatest work I've ever created, right? And it's not even in the technicalities. It's in the fact that I had to wait for most of the guests.
Oh,
like
yeah.
most of those guests are guests I had spoken to in January
Oh.
or last year.
Okay.
So it was that moment of finally.
Yeah,
So
the
and
moments,
also, a lot of the guests had said to me, "Don't worry, we'll get back to you." When I started in the first season,
Yeah.
and I didn't think they would come back to me, but for them to be like, "Hey, we're ready now. Hey, we have time."
Yeah.
So I think it's probably one of my greatest work. I loved it, enjoyed every episode, and I think for me also it was a very courageous episode because if you check with most of those guests, I had to wait,
Yeah.
and again, I don't want to say they're hard people to get, but their standard answers I usually know. So
Hey.
most of the people would say, I don't do podcasts, but they had to do
Yes.
that for me.
Yeah.
Like one of my idols or one of my mentors, like she was on my podcast, like as a first podcast ever. And
Yeah.
when you think about her, because she's well known and everything, when you think about her, she should have been in any other podcast, but she chose my podcast
Yeah.
as her first podcast. And she's not a podcast person, so it's great.
Man, I think that's weird because maybe that's why we're getting this proliferation of the content that's very useful and productive is the one that you can't really find on like the internet, but you can find a lot of podcasts about the playful and entertaining stuff. Because people that have serious things to say would firstly rather get paid for them.
Yeah.
And then even when they do not want to get paid, there's like the code of conduct, there's the branding aspect. There's,
Yeah.
like you said, I don't do podcasts. So wait, for you then, how did you come through just thinking around, I'm leaving university, I'm going to be a professional, obviously, and I'm also going to be a lawyer. What made you decide I'm also going to add the podcast element to it, knowing what you're going to be in front of people?
You know what, Ne? There's this new thing that I like. I don't know if you've ever seen that joke on TikTok. You must have seen it on one of our friends' statuses, or in my status as well.
Yeah.
The how greedy joke.
Oh, yeah.
Like I did for the aunties, yeah. So initially the plan was never for me to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I'm born a creative, right? I've
Okay.
always known. And then I think I'm just very fortunate that academically I'm also gifted. So
Okay.
it's a thing of I think with law for me, I did it because I was capable.
Yes,
But I've
yes.
always known that in my life journey and in my life story, I will end up as a creative.
Yeah.
Whether it's writing. At some point, fun fact, actually, I'm a very good actor and I'm a very good poet.
I've seen that. I've seen that. And I mean, I think we even choose you for stuff that doesn't really require a lot of acting. I know whenever we have events or friend gatherings, you usually do the prayers first.
Yes.
Which is one of those things where I do not pray, but listening or watching you pray, like it's just okay. Let it
How
cook.
did you switch?
Like, you just make it such a important part of the event, which it already is important, but you just add like a flavor to it, and you're like, okay, we want to eat now. Like,
So, yeah.
yeah. So go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think I've always known, even right now, right? I have conversations with God where I'm like, God, why did I go through technically the 7 years,
Yeah.
to do this law thing, to go through board exams,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like, I get it, but sometimes I'm just like, did I have to learn that in 8 years? But I've always known, man, and I think the creative part, the speaking part, one of the things that I've always dreamt of becoming is a speaker, right? From uni, like from first year, I'd always say by 30, I'd be an international speaker. But one
Yes.
of the things, I've never wanted to speak without experience. I've always wanted to speak based on something.
That's very wise.
Yes, like, I've studied law. If I'm talking about law, I know I've went through
That's
it.
very
If I'm
wise,
talking
yeah.
about unemployment, employment Wednesdays, careers, I know I've faced the challenges that I'm addressing.
Yeah.
I'm not just speaking from hearsay or reading stuff. So yeah, I guess it's that thing of tapping into your inner self. And I think for me, I've always been blessed enough that people see my light before I see it.
Yeah.
So people always want to give me space to exercise speaking. Like I'm always picked on. Like I like being at the back. If you're not, and even in our gatherings, I like acting like I'm quiet and stuff like that. And then people are like, oh, but don't you want to do this? Then when I do it, everyone's like, you speak that much. You speak well. So yeah.
Let's actually get into a story with that. 2017.
Yeah.
We were living at Sour Street, I think,
Yes.
City Waldorf. And we were so broke, like very broke. And we basically decided we were going to do the whole promotions thing. Because it was like one of those times where people would get, I forgot what they call them, but basically we had to travel all the way from Joburg to Sandton to some training.
Yes.
Well, I think it was just an office park.
Yes.
Do you remember that we were actually one of a few people that got selected there?
Yeah.
And we never went in with any preparation.
True.
So when you're speaking about the whole thing, you always get picked on.
Yes.
I actually saw it live when
Yeah.
we walk into a room and there's like a lot of other students, all as broke as we are, all as dedicated as we are. And it's one of those things where you don't even need to have experience or anything. You just shine in a crowd. So I do believe that. You do get picked on, and then you have to do the promotion.
And I take advantage of that. So one of the things that I always say, never make the mistake of giving me an interview.
Oh.
You can reject my CV, you can reject my proposal, but don't get me into the boardroom.
Yeah.
Don't get me into the room, because I know how to speak for myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know
yeah.
how to sell things. Like my boss used to say I'm the biggest bullshitter ever, because like they could pick on me anytime and then I'll just wing it through. So I think it's one of my superpowers, that. And now that you speak on the year 2017 regarding the whole promotion thing, when I think about it, I didn't think I was going to get picked, actually, funny enough, because also, how with promotions, they have a certain societal demeanor, like certain girls and stuff like
They're
that.
looking for some supermodels sometimes.
Yes. And at the time, man, like I'm just Yvonne, a second year, says Pandela and all of
Fair
that.
enough, we did have a few supermodels, but they just watched them speak and they're like, hey. Okay, wait, let's go into that actually. Because I remember you got selected to be one of the people that they were going to hook up with like a few equipment, take you like to, I think it was a shopping mall. Do you remember that experience? And can you tell us like what happened there? Like
Actually,
how was it?
A fun fact, now that I'm on so I was promoting almond milk and oat milk when it became a thing in South Africa. It was the first time, I think it was the first time they were introducing it in the health industry in South Africa, I think. A lot of the people didn't know about almond milk and almond milk and oats milk, right?
Yeah.
Right now, since I'm on my weight loss journey and health journey, I do not take normal milk. I take oats milk through and
Okay.
through. Yes, and almond milk sometimes. And at the time when I was doing those promotions, I thought, why are we having almond milk? Like,
Yeah, we already have milk.
Yes, it tastes too healthy. But now when I think about it, I'm like, actually, sometimes the little information, nothing is ever mundane in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So I learned about the product, right? So they pick us. They gave us equipment. They gave me almonds, different almonds. Then they will tell you that the milk actually tastes like those almonds, the
Yeah.
actual almond nuts. And then I remember when we went there, you would stand in a shop aisle, right, at a health store.
Yeah.
And then you would see people, as people come, you would have to convince them, like, hey guys, do you want to
Yep.
try
Please
almond
come
milk?
by.
Yes. And then some would say yes, some would say no. And some would ask you hard questions like, why must I stop using my normal dairy milk? Why must I opt for oats milk or almond milk? Then you have to answer that. And also for me, I think you see, like, that's the thing about how our lives are intertwined, right? Or they are connected one way or another. When you think about it, that was also preparing me for now. I have to sell Employment Wednesdays to guests.
Yeah.
I have to tell them why they should come.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them why it's important that they share their story, their journey. So it's almost as if every single thing in my life has always prepared me for now.
Nice.
Like it's not a, oh my God, what's happening? Like I think Employment Wednesdays is my biggest aha to so many things that I've been through, even unemployment, even being in promotion. Like I don't think there's a job that I didn't do. Remember, I've worked in sales at a clothing store.
I was still gonna drag you for all your jobs, and I think also this was actually gonna be a later question, but we'll just go into it now.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Firstly, I've always pictured you as someone who's like really authentic, and in fact, if anyone doesn't know the story, well, everyone doesn't know the story. I met Yvonne again, 2017, broke at City Waldorf, and you had, I'm not sure if it was a container of plastic of acha with you.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else. It wasn't like you had a lot of other things and with acha along with it. And I know that as a black kid, you'd always be scared to be seen with certain things that
like, why am I carrying acha?
Yeah, you're going through it, my guy. And I think when I saw that, I was like, okay, this seems like a relatable person. How much do you feel like that's helped you, being authentic and relatable to other people?
Firstly, before I even go into the authenticity part, I just want to say thank you to people around me because I'm always given space to be myself.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of the people want to be themselves, but it's usually environment that makes them not be authentic. It's almost as if there are these expectations that they need to be a certain way.
Yeah.
But for me, from my friends, my family, I'm always in a position where, like, starting from my parents, they allow me to be myself.
Yeah.
They allow me to be anything. Like, my dad would troll me about Employment Wednesdays. Like, my family watches Employment Wednesdays. Was saying, so the other day he was saying to me, yeah, I see that they bullied you into bringing guys because people were so tired of having females.
Yes.
And then he's like, you succumb to the bullying. Why would you let them bully you? I'm like, no, it's not like that. And so my family, and anytime I want to do something, my friends and family always want to invest in the vision. And I've always had a space, like for me, people, my community is home. Right? So I know that if I'm having a terrible day, I can pick up the phone and call you and tell you how I did the worst thing, but also I feel it was justified. And you never judge me, even on other friends. I know I can break down and it's never a thing of you're a crybaby or you're this. So that has always allowed me to be myself, right? And then again, going into authenticity from a personal perspective, for me, that's your biggest asset. That's your biggest value. When people say, what do you bring to the table? You say you bring your real self, your authentic self. And here's why. We are positioned to be like other people. When you go on social media right now, everybody stays at the same apartments. Everybody has the same kitchen. Everybody wears the same clothing style. Well, it's cool. You're getting inspos and all of that. But I think it's always important not to lose your identity or your individuality because that's what people see you for, right? And another thing, for me, being authentic is so beautiful and easier than trying to be somebody else.
I
And
totally agree. Yeah.
I have tried to be other people, man. I've tried to sort of mimic certain individuals or try to alter myself. But I realize it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. Like, people that are not themselves, I wonder how they cope, because that's a heavy burden to carry. And another thing that I know, if I'm not myself, I'm not just depriving myself, I'm depriving the whole world.
To get to really know you.
Yeah. So for me, when God uses you, he doesn't use who you pretend to be. He uses the real you, your mess, your strengths,
I like
your
that.
whatever. So
Yeah.
if I'm pretending to be the biggest superstar, if I'm pretending to be the biggest podcast, well, we are going to get there. But now I will present it as what it is. We just
Yeah.
have 7,000 subscribers, and that's okay. I'm not going to go around saying, yeah, we have 2 million subscribers. So I think it's very important to understand that being yourself is the easiest thing. I think for me, it's just easy, because also I don't need to act.
Yeah.
Like, being myself, this is what you get.
Yeah.
Like, even if the camera was off.
I think it's a much more understandable standard for you. It's a comfortable standard. It's also sustainable, like
Yes,
you said.
very
Like, you
sustainable.
can literally keep going and
Yeah.
just being yourself. And you can obviously keep trimming some stuff. So what have you been trimming over the years? Like, is it a laugh? Is it like, I know this because there's certain things personally I've had to like, it's me, but I don't like it. So maybe I'll just tweak it a bit and like try to make sure I have, sort of an altered sort of
Yeah.
view on it. So what have you tweaked just so that the authentic you still stays, but it's also, you're also grooming yourself into like someone you're also liking as well?
Okay. So, and I think you may have noticed this, right, over the years, because you and I have known each other for a while. So I have always been a very confrontational person. I did not care for reading the room.
Yeah.
I did not care whether I came across rude or disrespectful. If you do something I don't like, I'm going to address it now. And I've always pressed on, we have to talk about it now.
Yes.
It can't wait.
The same
Stop
lady
whatever
who's
you're
graceful.
doing. Yes.
Offering no grace
Yes,
whatsoever.
Actually, I was not graceful. I was not graceful. You missed my call. It's a court thing. Everything was a thing with me. And I think it was because I think I had a trauma. I don't know where that trauma came from, but and I think even now, I'm still dealing with that, to say, I'm a lover. I love dearly, right?
Yeah.
And because I love dearly, there's always that element that, what if this person leaves me? Or what if this person doesn't want to be my friend? Or whatever the case may be. So for me back then, I'd always want people to explain themselves or to sort of validate what we have, right? But over the years, and when you become an adult, you understand that people can miss calls. It's not the end of the friendship. Like, but somebody's busy. I'll give you, and I think one of the things that changed my perspective is actually one of our friends, right? When she got married, like, her and I used to talk on the phone for hours.
Yeah.
But when she got married, I couldn't just call her at
Like sharing
11. And then there was that. And then when she had a baby, I started thinking about it that sometimes she's carrying a baby. I can't expect her to just put the baby down and then now attend to me. And maybe what I want is not as important. So I've learned that not everything should be a thing, man. Not everything requires confrontation.
So you had to like trim that authentic love into still authentic love,
Boundaries.
but realistic. Yeah, with boundaries, because then it becomes realistic given how, life is changing and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I give people grace, and now I don't always confront people about everything. And back then, if I don't confront you, it means I'm cutting you off. But now I can still not confront you and be okay. I'll give you like an example. Something happened also with Ngati Manje. I'm spilling tea of my friends.
Please. Yeah. We're going to get to that actually. We're coming for everyone. Like everyone.
One by one.
One by one.
One of our friends, right? There's a change that happened in his life. He didn't tell me about it. Right? When he didn't tell me about it, well, I had a dream about it. That's the thing about me. I'll dream dreams. So I had a dream about it, but I didn't ask him about it. And then I remember you asked me about it, like, hey, da-da-da-da. And then I was like, oh, no, I didn't know about that. And then you were like, oh, okay, sharp. And I think you thought I was even messing around, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you not know that? Because this is a big part. Then, so in the moment, the young Yvonne wanted to be like, how dare he not tell me?
Yeah.
How dare he not invite me? How dare he whatever? In that, like maybe in that moment. But one thing that therapy has taught me is that don't just jump to address. Give it 10 minutes. Process it. So if there's a reaction, think for 10 minutes before you attend or
Makes
do
sense.
whatever.
Yeah, it
Yes,
makes sense.
okay, is this it? So then I had to sit down with myself and ask myself, what is it about this whole thing that's upsetting me, right? And then I realized that I was upset because had the roles been reversed, I would have told him, or I
Yeah.
would have engaged him, or he would have known, right?
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, but I'm not going to ask him, right? Then over the days, I kept on thinking about it. I'm like, but again, also with this situation, there's another person involved, and I'm not even friends with that other person. Maybe there was also a boundary that had to be respected of that other person. So I had to
So you
process
had
it
to
from
see
maturity.
what are the other factors that they had to
Yes.
consider that you're not even maybe aware of at the time?
You know, so I had to think about that and all of that, and I wasn't upset about it. Time went on, and then me and and my friend had the conversation. Then I told, so he says to me, "No, I'm so sorry about how everything happened. I should have told you and all of that." Right? Then I tell him my perspective, and he's like, "Actually, thank you for giving me that grace to say you do have an understanding that there is another person involved, and you are not friends with that person, and
Yeah.
maybe Nami, I was just there by chance, or whatever the case may be." So I think over the years, I've also learned to give people grace and give people the opportunity to say their side of the story without making assumptions that I think my view is better, because there will always be my view, your view, and the actual view.
And yeah, and it's weird because I think that's where the clash usually comes in. If you feel like I'm so authentic, you cannot, well, anything you perceive as it's not fake or it's not an authentic action towards you becomes offensive.
Yes.
So now I think that's where the whole, whether it's a tantrum or you're going off, that's where it comes from
Yeah.
usually. Okay, so I'm happy to know you've trimmed that.
Yes.
What about the laugh? You haven't changed the
I
laugh.
know, guys. This is how we will laugh through
You
and
laugh
through.
like an African woman. Natty, actually, I don't know. Did you grow up watching like a lot of the African content? You know, the movies we used to watch, the Nigerian ones.
movies. Blood Sisters.
And you remember how the sound, I don't know what
It
sound
goes-
equipment they were using. Yeah, it would be pa.
And it was so loud. And
Yeah.
also, when I think about it now, that wasn't good quality sound.
Yeah.
Because it was...
But then you add the not so good quality sound with the African woman sound, and your speakers are blowing if they're not authentic speakers.
That is so true. But yeah, man. And I think with other things, in terms of trimming certain things, like I intentionally give people grace.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm okay with people not being in my life. So I used to have an obsession that we need to make it together. You know, I was Miss Vision 2020. I'm Vision
yeah.
2030. And I'm a people's person. I will write for the people that I know. I will put people on with jobs. I will do things for
Yeah.
people. I used to think we need to move together.
Yeah.
But then adulting, or as you grow, you realize that people fall off.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you were toxic, I was toxic, whatever. It's just a matter of we in different phases of our lives and we can't sync, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So I've learned to give people grace to say, maybe in this season you don't have capacity for me.
Yeah.
And maybe in another season you don't have capacity for me. And that's okay. Or I don't have capacity for you. And another thing that I used to do a lot, and I think I remember when I read The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama,
Yeah.
I even sent you a part of that. I used to treat all my friends of the same high standard. So everything, I would expect you guys to treat me the same way I treat you.
Yeah.
I would expect you to give me the 100% our other friend gives. And then I learned over the years, I have one friend, guys, who every year she writes me letters on my birthday.
Oh, really?
She makes no mistake. She writes me letters on my birthday because I love letters. But I can't expect that from all of you. Some of you do.
Wait, after saying that, I'm realizing my standards are really messed up in that regard. Like,
You know, I can't expect that from you, and not because you are incapable,
Yeah.
but because there's ways you serve me. So all my friends, I've come to understand that they serve me differently. Another friend will not agree to sit here and interview me, but they're happy to share the link.
yeah.
You know, or they're happy to give me ideas behind the scenes.
yeah.
So I've learned to navigate that, because now I used to have one standard where I'm like, everybody must treat me like this. If I'm saying we're launching Employment Wednesdays, I want to see you all there. If you're not there,
Yeah,
you're
and you're
fake.
not tolerating anything. Actually, I think even with over the years, because I remember you used to ask us to post stuff and share everything. My whole thinking at that time was, you have more friends than I do, and all my friends are your friends. So every time you ask me to post, I'll be like, why? Like, everyone has seen it from you. Why would they see it from me? But I mean, even then, I think you've become more understanding.
Sure.
And weirdly, as you've become understanding, I've also learned a lot. I'm like, wait, sometimes it helps with the algorithm. Sometimes it helps with just, keeping everything alive. It's not just about, hey, you have a big following, so share it. And I'm starting to see things in your way now.
Yeah.
Which, leading up to that, actually, no, it's not even leading up to that. Since you're so social, how many friends do you think you've made in the past 7 years? And how many do you think you've lost? Obviously not friends in like you tell them your secrets kind of way, but in the terms of we're going out, we're doing like fun stuff together, or we're just talking all the time. Like how many people have you accumulated and how many have you lost?
So, and I know people are going to think this is a lie. Number one, I am quite shy, right?
That's cap.
I ain't caping. And then number two, I don't know how to make friends,
Okay.
right? So I've just always been blessed that people gravitate towards me.
Great.
So I can carry a conversation. I can nurture a relationship, but I struggle with starting.
Oh,
so
okay.
usually when a relationship starts, whether it's friendship or mjolo, whatever, I withdraw. I usually move. But once I go in, then I go all in. I know how to nurture and navigate, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the people, I've heard this misconception, right, where people think I have a lot of friends. I actually don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a few of you, where if we say I'm gonna have a wedding where there's 70 people, I can actually do that type of wedding. People always say, no, you wouldn't be able to do a wedding of 70 people. I'm like, that's the thing. For me, friendship,
Yeah.
that's a very deep word.
Okay.
And another thing is, and I think this is a gift. People like being around me, one. Two, people like talking to me. And for me, just because you and I have spoken 4 hours on the phone, that doesn't mean we're friends.
But that's the thing. I think you give enough effort such that you can say it's not a friendship, but to the other person, it's like, you're my friend.
But
like,
for me,
look how
it's
hard you're
basics.
going. Yeah, like, look how hard you're going. Like, you just borrowed me money.
So
You
I
just
think
did all these
generally,
things.
I think generally I'm a nice person, right?
Oh, okay.
So I think generally I'm a nice person. Generally I'm very warm,
Yeah.
right? I'm welcoming. I'm warm. I can make you laugh. I can listen to you. I'll give advice. I'll just
Yeah.
start giving you advice. I'll preach and all of that. And I do understand that some people may misinterpret that, but for me, you know this. I'm quite very deep, and because and it's not even because I don't want to make friends. I know I'm quite demanding.
Yeah.
Being my friend requires a lot.
Yeah.
Like
I know
and
it.
not even from
I know it.
from a toxic perspective, but like I think I hold my people of high standard.
Yeah.
And for me to go around imposing that on everyone, that would be very hard.
Yeah.
Like if people would know my close friends
Yeah.
and know how we maintain our relationships or the things we go through, they'll be like, you know what, it's fine. I'd rather be just your Instagram follower, because it takes a lot. Because I love attention. I love being listened to.
Yeah.
I change my mind a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm an extremist, right? So when I'm happy, everybody must be happy.
Yebo.
When I'm upset, I'm upset.
Yeah.
So I think it's being my friend is quite a lot, and I do understand that. So that's why I don't just go around throwing the word friend
Yeah.
everywhere. But I have met a lot of amazing people, like a lot. I think I can say a good. Hey, this number is sounding too high.
Yeah, you're gonna find out that's where the 7,000 subscribers comes from. It's all her friends. Like,
I think I've met a good. I'd say between 50 to 100 people. You said over the last 7 years.
yeah, just since you started university up until now.
Yeah, I think I've met between 50 to 100 people that, like friends, buddy, ne? I've met that number, but also there's more people that I've met whom I wouldn't categorize as friends, but as mentors, as people that I look
okay.
up to, as people that I have a cordial relationship, acquaintances,
Yeah.
you know? So
Which you
that.
treat like they're your friends, and then you're like, they're not my friends.
That's why I always say I can't do stuff like mentorship because I cross boundaries.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, can we do dinner? I have a life update. You
Yeah.
know? So
Actually, selfishly, we are not open for any mentorship positions. Well, Yvonne is not. And that's mainly because I actually asked her to be my sister's mentor.
yes.
And that for me was just exciting because I think when I look at her and I'm like, who do I want you to grow up and at least, I'm not saying she has to be you, but be like Yvonne.
Oh man.
So far, have you ventured into trying to mentor certain people, and what's the most you feel like you know has been challenging for you in terms of just advising younger people on a personal level, like face to face, or at least just guiding them?
So I am looking into the whole one-on-one mentorship, but
Yeah.
later next year, right?
Okay.
Because like I said, for me, mentorship is quite a responsibility because it's almost as if you are giving someone a template.
Yes,
And
yes.
if maybe the template is wrong, because I'm always I don't want to rob people of being their true self.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to focus on mimicking me, right? I want them to, like me, ne? There's maybe women in my life like that I look up to. Maybe it's 8 of them. Amazing, brilliant women
Yeah.
for different things, right? So I don't have one expectation on one person where I'm like, she has to be all of these things and all of
okay.
that. I take what I can from each person because remember, these people are human beings and they will fumble. So I feel like when you now box a person to your mentor, it's almost as if you're saying they're not allowed to make mistakes. They are not allowed to be out of character, whatever the case may be.
True,
So for
yeah.
me, I'm not very much big on direct mentorship, but there is, she's become like a baby sister to me,
Yeah.
Nobuhle. She's also studying her LLB degree at the University of Witwatersrand. Man, well, with her, it's been great because firstly, that relationship didn't start well because I told her to study at UJ. She went to study at Wits.
First mistake.
First
big
mistake, right? But eventually, because I was really so upset because I didn't understand why she didn't want to come to UJ, you know. So, and then eventually we got into it. So sometimes I'll tell her, start applying for articles. Also, you don't have to go into the attorney route. You have more options. Explore your creativity. Explore your other talents.
Yeah.
And all of that. But some of the challenges I think I've seen with trying to mentor a person, right? People change their mind, right?
Yeah.
And as people change their mind, so many things happen. It's almost as if you must also continuously guide them.
Yeah.
It can be very hard to transition with the person.
Yeah.
And also sometimes it's easy as a mentor to think you must detect, like, do this, do that, do this. And then when they don't follow your advice or your guideline, you feel disappointed.
I think that's been my biggest challenge and mainly why I asked you to mentor my sister because you call yourself an extremist. I'm a dictator through and through. So I think it's also usually if I advise someone to do things my way, I'm usually aware of all the risk. I'm usually ready to take accountability if things flop. I'm usually going to be able to come up with a plan B. And I've seen how the hardest part about advising people, if you're me, is having to let go of the control.
Yes.
Like, okay, now you do it. I'm like, nah. But I do admire how you've been approaching it, both in terms of who's mentoring you and how you've been mentoring Nobuhle, even though she went to Wits.
I don't know
By the
why you
way,
did that.
and there's a caveat, guys. We're just playing. Wits and UJ are like Kaiser Chiefs and Pirates. It's like they're both very important.
Yeah.
They're both very lovely. But obviously, we have a team that we represent, which
Yes.
is UJ. So we have to like always just try and like jab the other guys. Okay, now we're gonna go into a game, just to like sort of ease things a bit.
Light it up. Okay.
Yeah. It's sort of a derivative of Would You Rather,
Okay.
but I was told to ask you about your parents and, you know, the things they've taught you. But I think we can already see what a great job they did.
Yeah.
So we're not going to like brag about them. Instead, I need you to choose between your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
Who would you rather be stuck with the following things? So we're going to start with a 10-hour flight.
Okay.
Anyway, like who would you rather spend a 10-hour flight with between your mom and your dad, side by side? And it's not business lounge. It's
Okay.
like you just sitting,
My dad.
Your
Oh,
dad for the
yeah.
10-hour flight.
Yes, and I say my dad because my dad is funny.
Yeah.
He's very hilarious. My dad is a great storyteller, and I think maybe that's where also I get how my creativity.
Yeah.
I often say if he was given the opportunities that I have, he
Yeah.
would have been probably one of the greatest writers there's ever been or storytellers there's ever been. So I enjoy spending time with him. I enjoy hearing his views on politics. My dad is those people who read stuff on Facebook and then he'll come and be like, yo, why are you guys doing ABCD? Have you seen this? And then he wants to show me photos like,
So he's in tune. Like he's actually
he's in
watching
tune.
what's happening.
Yeah,
Around.
my dad actually fun fact. One of the reasons why I love reading a lot, my dad made me read newspapers from grade 1.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and when I read, he would make me another reason why I underline on my books. My dad would say, "I don't think you've read if you're not underlining anything."
Yeah.
You know, there must have been a new word you learned.
Yes,
There must be a new revelation or understanding.
Okay.
So for that reason, conversation and I know I would laugh my lungs out because he's got a funny way of telling stories.
Yeah.
I'd choose my dad.
Okay. And then the next one is you're stuck in a foreign country
Mm-hmm.
and they do not speak any of the languages that you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you rather be with then? You need to ask for directions, do everything in the foreign country. Who do you think would be most useful for navigating that?
Oh, definitely my mom.
Oh, damn. Okay.
My mom is a go-getter. Like
Yeah.
my mom is a go-getter. So who? My mom.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, there's nothing and I think that's where I even get it from.
Yeah.
There's no job my mom has never done. My
Yeah.
mom has been a waiter and looking at like a person who would have studied nursing and all of that. She went and did waitressing. She
Yeah.
saved up so much money to relocate overseas. Like my
Yeah.
mom does the hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when she fully relocated to overseas, I think I was in grade 10 or grade 11 fully. And
Yeah.
she was being judged to say, why would you leave a 14-year-old or 13-year-old in South Africa? And but she knew what she was doing. Like my mom goes for the jugular.
I love that. Like, I picture every mom wants to hear the words, my mom does the hard things. Like, it sounds so empowering.
Oh, my mom
It
is
sounds
audacious.
like, that's literally Wonder Woman right there. Like, my mom does the hard things. So I
yeah.
love that.
Like my mom does the hard things, and now I'm thinking about it. Going back to the chat on authenticity. Sorry to track back, right?
yeah, sure.
So my mom got married in her 40s.
Okay.
She got her first property in her 40s.
Yeah.
She got her first car in her late 30s.
Yeah.
She got her children, her last born, I think, also in her 30s, right?
Yeah.
And her way of doing life and her relocating and all of this, like she started from scratch, I think at 33. Like when I say from scratch, she
Yeah.
went into a foreign country, no relative, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look for a job. And if you look up Ireland, you would know what they say about Irish people.
Yeah.
If you know the country well, hence the foreign thing, because she
Yeah.
went to a country where English is not even a thing like that.
Yeah.
So already there are those dynamics, right? She went to start from all over. She didn't care to say, what are they gonna say? People are gonna say, I left my child. People are gonna say, I'm a waiter now. People are gonna say no. She was focused on her dream. She was focused on what she was trying to achieve. And seeing her slowly progress, getting herself a car, getting herself a property, getting married. And she's always wanted to get married, like having her dream white wedding.
Yeah.
Like she does all the things that she said she would do. And also she's able to do the hard stuff, man. So I feel like also watching her life, and a lot of people say I'm relaxed. Like one thing about me, I don't rush. And I say it from my mom because I always feel like, where are we rushing to?
Yeah.
You will get the good things that you want.
True,
There's no
yeah.
need for you, like for instance, right now to say, I'm going to get a house because everybody's buying a house. That time I can't afford a house. I'm
Yeah.
okay with getting a house at 40 as long as it's my dream house. You know, so also she teaches me to cross over boundaries. I don't operate on worldly timelines. I operate on, okay, what opportunities do I have before me? how best can I utilize them to work for my advantage. So definitely
I
my mom.
love that. Okay, the next one, I kind of have a clue where you're going to go with it, but crisis management. You're in, I don't know, maybe a burning building, and there's a lot of children that are crying in distress. Between your mom and your dad, who do you think would be good for just calming down everyone?
My dad.
Yeah, I knew that one.
My dad, guys, my dad. I'm yet to hear my dad raise his voice in anger.
Yeah.
My dad, even his parenting style is, they call it reverse psychology. My dad always wants to understand what's your thought process.
Okay.
Like, I remember, so he's always known that I'm academically gifted and. So I remember, I think I had gotten a terrible mark in math. And I used to be, growing up, I used to be so scared of my dad. And I don't know why, but I feared him. Like,
Yeah.
from a place of respect. Like, if you let's say I was wasted somewhere and you say your mom is here, I can maneuver. But if you say my dad is here, I would sober up and you know.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, like, my mom was so strict. She was the one to use the hiding. But my dad, I think my dad has used the hiding on me once or twice.
Okay.
Because his parenting style, like I'm saying, was to sit down, let's talk. Do you understand that if you're failing, you're going to not get space in university? And if you don't get space in university, do you understand that you're not going to get a professional job?
Yeah, he walks you through everything.
Yes, he talks to you. Like, I remember this one time, I'll never forget this, and I think that's why I was so scared of boys, like, in uni. And in general, right? He said to me, like, I think it was in my first year or grade 12, he said to me, I'm not going to say don't date, I'm not going to say don't do this and stuff, but should you get pregnant, we are going to give you up for free. No lobola, no damages. You can go and stay in that family. I remember that thing carried me through universities. I was like, you know what? I'm not having babies before marriage and all of that. So his way of doing things is very calm. And he's more solution based than he said, you did this. So if he finds a crisis, it's not about why did Retu say this? Where is Retu? He's gonna be like, okay, what do we need? Do we need water? Sharp. Even if when I have to call him, like right now, if I was to call him and be like, hey dad, can you pick us up in Edenvale? He's not gonna start asking, hey, why don't you have Uber money? What happened? No, he's more solution based. While on the other end, my mom will start fetching the people who caused the fire first. Like, why Nenze?
Meanwhile, the kids are screaming. They're also scared. There's a dangerous woman around and a dangerous fire. Okay. And then, will we ever get to see your parents on the show? Like, ever? I mean, I know the show obviously has a theme and it has a certain intent behind it. But I think there's things that you've mentioned that I think form part of their story and would inform even young people that are seeking jobs, like your mom's relocation, your mom's sort of own sort of journey in the employment world, your dad's own approach to learning, things like you've said, him fostering that attitude of read stuff, underline stuff, pay attention to like your academics. So do you think you'd ever approach or do a show with that sort of angle with them?
If I didn't know better, I would say you were in my thoughts this morning.
Oh, damn.
Actually, no, yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So I was having a chat with my dad, right? And then a thought rang on me to say maybe the next season 3 last episode should be with him.
You get that, guys? Spoiler already.
You never know, but definitely with my mom, if she's in the country at a time where we have bookings available, it's something that I don't mind doing because I think you're right. Their stories are important to tell because I think how they handle things or how they do things or how they've contributed to the person that I am is like they're a big part of me. And I think more than anything, like my parents have always, even right now, like sometimes it stresses me that my dad believes that I can be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Like it stresses me so much because there's never been a point where I introduce a new concept or a new thing I want to try where he's like, no, you're incapable. It's so funny. The other day I was telling him, so I started my swimming lessons.
Okay.
So I was telling him, I'm like, yeah, now I can swim because he can swim. I'm like, yeah, now I'm going to race with you and beat you and all of that, right? And then so also I'm training for high rocks, right?
Okay.
So he says to me, so what prompted you to start the swimming lessons? Do you now want to go and be a pilot. I was like, what? Why would you think I
He's
want to
thinking even further now. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm like, why
what
would-
else do you feel like you can do now that
I'm
you've
like-
done this?
I'm like to him, why would you think I want to be a pilot? He's like, no, but with you, you never know. You're very inquisitive. You always want to try new things. So I think my parents believe in me. Like my mom, Mankula, she used to call me, and it used to annoy me, but she used to call me in like what you call induna ya mabuto, right?
Okay.
Like for a very long time. And then I'd be like, why would you call me that? I felt like it was embarrassing, right? But when I think about it now, translated as what you call a leader of warriors,
Yeah.
right? I think they've always
It's a general.
Yes.
Yes.
They've always given me permission to become anything. So I think it would definitely be nice to have them on my couches and, ask them questions and have them share their stories. So don't worry, guys. Let me cook.
Please. Yeah. Okay. And then I think it's part of your intro. I'm not going to quote the Bible verse.
Yeah.
But it's basically, well, I'm going to quote the verse, not
Yeah.
the actual scripture number.
Yeah.
It's my people perish because of a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
In the past few years, what information or knowledge gaps have you identified in yourself? And what have you been doing maybe to just fill up those gaps and empower yourself on specific things? Like, not just in general, but just what specific things have you feel like I'm lacking here and I'm actually going to try and upskill myself or learn a bit more there?
Yeah. So firstly, a big one currently. So I love teaching, right?
Okay.
And I love teaching about anything and everything. And then one of in my story of my career, how it ends with me being a lecturer, right?
Okay.
So one of the requirements is that you need to have a PhD within a certain period after starting to lecture, right? So one of the things that I've made a deliberate choice to do is going to my PhD, and not just for the validation of being udokotela.
Thabethe, from general to doctor.
Yeah, not just for that validation, but being able to share expertise knowledge, being able to share knowledge that is conducive. Like for instance, right, I've been in practice, I'm in corporate now, and being able to take the research and the practicalities that I've came across and being able to give them to students. Because one of the things that I noticed, and not to say our institution did a bad thing, with some lecturers you would note that they're very theory-based, right?
Yeah.
But with some, they were so practical that even in an exam room, you remember stuff.
Yeah,
because the
it's
person,
real-life examples.
Yes, real-life
It's-
examples, real-life experiences, and all of that. So for me, I've taken a deliberate choice to further my studies in order to be able to say when I'm speaking on certain things, I know that I'm speaking on quality research that I would have done, and I'm certified to speak on that.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I do quite a lot, right? It's not even a knowledge gap, but I read quite a lot, and not just for the consumption of wisdom, but for my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I would notice that I'm well spoken. I speak well, but sometimes I would note that, no man, why am I using those type of words? That is not good.
I love that
vocab.
you're aware of that, because I've also come across that where you speak so much that you start seeing the risk in you not understanding things.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, if you're going to speak all the time, then you better actually have a good vocabulary.
Yes.
You better have, I don't know. And it's weird because I think there's so much pressure on Black kids to have those things right. Whereas with a lot of other people, they can get away with botching words. They can get
Yes.
away with not really focusing on the most basic things or most fundamental things about English.
Sure.
They can just, wing it. But I love the fact that you've been able to see that and you're trying to like upskill yourself in that area just on speaking.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna try to like move it quickly because I still have a ton of questions. And I'm like, damn, not even halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay, top 5 books you've read. You don't even need to justify, just the titles, since you read so much. So what's your top 5 at the moment?
But on judge, I'll start with How Did We Get Here by Nompumelelo Lidwaba.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's go. Okay.
And then How Did We Get Here by Mpomele Dwaba. Oh, sorry, just to go and add on to the question you had asked me, the gaps, ne?
Oh, yes.
We are not reading enough African authors. So one of oh, guys, let me cook. I can't tell you guys yet, ne?
Please.
But one of the things that I'm doing intentionally
Yeah.
is reading work by African authors, particularly that, because I've noticed that we hype them up in the moment, but we don't share their work. We don't appreciate their work. So I think I realized that gap to say we focus a lot on European and American stuff, but
Yeah.
homegrown stuff, African stuff, we neglect. So one of the things that I'm doing, I'm intentionally saying every other month I will read an African author, whether they're well known or not. I will just take my time to consume their art. If there's any good pointers, share it. And then Disruptive Thinkers by T.D. Jakes.
Okay.
And then Will by Will Smith.
Okay.
And then Finding Me by Viola Davis. Just As I Am by Cecily Tyson.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I find so many comparisons between you and Viola Davis. Like, I think it's the grace that you guys usually carry yourself with.
And what an honor to be seen in the same light
Even
as
with
her.
the online presence, bruh.
Yeah.
Like, when it's weird. It's not that I'm focused on the exact posts, but the exact same feeling I get when her stuff pops up on my feed is it's the feeling I get when your stuff pops up.
Really?
I don't know why. It's just become, if there was an archetype, I think you guys would belong to the same sort of archetype of people. I don't know what that would be, but it's just you guys are in that realm of, I don't know, those people who do so much to bring comfort to others and do so much to bring light to others, even when it's negative posts by her, stuff that's political.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just always seems like it's coming from a good place.
Yes,
like,
yes.
She could post a plain picture with just F you, and I'd be like, I love you too. Like,
That's true. She just has that aura and
have you
demeanor.
ever gotten any comparisons to her from other people?
Yes, a lot of the people used to say my features, they're very similar to her, but also
it's that African woman, that chocolate.
Yes. And then also I used to get that apparently from her movies, because I think we can't really say that about her because we don't know her from a personal perspective. But from her online presence and her movies, apparently I embody the same confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's almost like when people speak to you or you see stuff that they're either posting or you watching their stuff, because again, we don't know her, usually you get left with the feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been noticing. I'm like, you leave the same type of feeling that whether it's her scenes, whether it's her posts, it's the same vibe. I don't even know how to describe it.
You know what? I'm going to give you homework there.
Really? Okay.
Please find out when she's in South Africa and get her on that seat. I know it could take years, it could take months, but yeah, I think it would be nice to have her on the other side.
I think as a challenge to myself, I could probably get her in a Zoom call.
Nah.
It's one of those things where, you got on the podcast and you started talking shit. Like, how are you going to get very, like, I will, actually.
Yeah.
I will. I'm speaking it to the universe. I'll get her on the show via Zoom, though, because I'm pretty sure she's not flying to South Africa with all the news about everything that's happening this side. But I always actually think about that. Like, what would a conversation between you guys be like?
Yeah.
Like, it would probably be a prayer session.
Wow.
Like, just a prayer session. In fact, we could even use that angle. Like, we do not need you to speak. We don't even need the promo. Just please come and pray with Yvonne on her show. And just talk to God and bless all the African kids on on our behalf. Yeah. Okay, and then my next question is basically just on your future plans for the show. But we can start with obviously just the next season. One, how many guests do you have confirmed already to be coming through? And what was the thinking with choosing those people, specifically given that it's a new season?
Actually, I have quite a lot, ne?
Yeah.
So initially, I wanted to drag the season into December, right?
Okay.
And Jan. But then I figured out there's certain things I want to revamp. So I was like, I need to recoup. But I do have like at least over seven guests that have already agreed for us to shoot beginning of Jan. And I think one, spoiler alert, the one that I'm so excited about, I'm going to be interviewing somebody who is part of the national basketball team.
Okay.
So he studied engineering, and then he transitioned into a career in basketball. He's played, he's training, he's a coach, and so I think it's quite interesting also bringing in sports, because
Oh,
I don't think we've
damn.
had anyone in sports in on the podcast. So also there's that.
Wait, on that, do you think Black people see sports as a form of employment?
They don't. That's why we're bringing it in.
Because I've never really, even I don't see it that way. Even though you look at just basically from a lifestyle
Yeah.
perspective, it's you feed your people through your athletic endeavors. So
Yeah.
okay, cool. Sorry, continue. I'm just, it never hit me that you could actually have someone who does sport here,
Yeah.
and they could speak about just that career aspect of
Yeah.
it, and they're not even talking like a celebrity. They're
Yeah.
just talking as
No,
an
no, no.
employee of a team.
So yeah, man, I'm actually very excited about the sports side of it, because
Yeah.
we neglect it and negate it and put it there. There's money there, and there's money there, and there's happiness there, there's passion there. Why not formalize it?
Yeah.
You know, why can't they have a pension fund?
Yeah.
Why can't they have UIF?
Yeah.
Why can't children be encouraged to play sports for money and have managers that actually draft proper employment contracts or contracts, and actually be guided, actually be taught how to save? You know, because this is a real job.
That's so important, because I've also seen with a lot of the talented, again, I hate to bring it back to Black people, but that's all I know.
Yeah.
People get so talented that they'll be playing sports for free their whole lives. Then at the end of it, it's like that was your main gift, and you didn't abandon it because you still did it, but you just never insisted on getting paid for it.
Yes. So basically, I think I in the next seasons, or rather season, because I think we're going to have 2 or 3 seasons next year. But the biggest things you're going to get away, the sports industry, as well as commercializing your talents and gifts.
Yeah.
Because we think, oh yeah, I can sing in the bathroom, ha ha ha. But what if you can actually hone that skill, practice, put time into it, put money? Z was trolling me, and she was like, yeah, this December you better not finish your bonus. You better start creating a studio for yourself, you know, so that when you travel to other countries, you've got equipment and stuff. When I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, you're right, you know. So yeah, man, season 3, it's gonna be top tier.
Nice. Okay. And what's corporate like? I think we're going to close it off with that. Just basically you telling us, you know, what's the shift been like from the formal firm environment where you were to like where you are now?
So the first month I struggled. Law firm life is work.
Yeah.
So when I went in-house, I'm knocking off at 4:30, and I actually don't have to open my laptop, well, at the time.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to the system. So I struggled to sleep as well, because generally I operate on 5 to 6 hours because of the conditions from studying from uni.
Yeah.
You knew that you sleep, you slumber. You sleep, you miss the bag.
Yes.
you can't just be sleeping.
Yeah,
like even
it's
today,
unforgiving.
I'm literally operating on 3 hours sleep, right? So I struggled with my sleeping patterns, because when practice, there was just a lot of work. You'd have to put in after hours and stuff. But in corporate, yes, you may be required to put in after hours because maybe of your work ethic. But it's not like somebody's waiting to say billables.
Yes.
Where are your billables? If you don't do this, you're in trouble. Or if you knock off at 4:30, you're seen as not good enough.
Yeah, there's a different model and just different expectations compared to there's a client that just called and they want something
you know, and the
immediately.
whole thing of urgent, like in a law firm environment, anything can become urgent. And right now, if there was an urgent matter, this podcast would just stop.
Oh, really? I mean, I know this, but I think because we never even, once you get into practice, do other stuff, you just never realize. But actually, if I had a podcast, we'd actually have to stop it now
Yes.
just so that I can go back to work.
Yes.
You always make yourself available for the work. So it's just, hey.
So, and also, not to say anything bad about law firms or anything, I always say, I got the opportunity to work at one of the most beautiful law firms and stuff, right? But it's always important to know the nature of the profession is quite hectic, and I don't think I was built for that.
Yeah.
I like so many things. I want to teach. I want to do podcasts. I want to attend events. I want to create. And another fun fact, another thing that I thought of, I used to be able to draw,
Oh, really?
draw like proper drawings,
Yeah.
right? And that was like in primary, I think between grade 4 and 7. But now I couldn't draw anymore because I stopped nurturing that skill. Because a lot
Yeah.
of the things crowded me. Then I focused on academics and stuff.
You could be selling Picassos right
Listen, but we're gonna go back. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
and start
We
afresh
have
and just-
capacity. So I think for me, being in corporate has given me permission to explore other parts of my life or self other than work.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm comfortably here. I'm fully present here. I'm not thinking about work.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about deadline. But I believe that at the time when and we were a medium law firm, so it wasn't many of us. So you have a lot of workload. You're thinking about DDs. You're thinking about billables. You're thinking about reviewing agreements. There was just always that thing that my job comes before anything, but corporate grants you the whole thing of saying that you can actually put yourself first before your job. So there's been that. And then also I transitioned from working at the office to working from home. I struggled the first month because I'm a chatterbox. At my previous job, they used to call me Radio 2000. But Nana, if Radio
Always
2000
out here just serving
in people's
gossip
offices,
and all
like
that
I'm just
stuff.
talking to everyone, I'm sharing stories. So when I started working from home, I literally had to keep quiet, like just mthule. But lucky enough, I made beautiful friends whom actually we started a community where we'd call each other, would be working, and we were like on 5-hour calls while it's working, and we conversing and stuff like that. But it's been quite a nice, interesting journey. I think the only disadvantage, sometimes I do miss practice,
Yeah.
because practice has this urge. It makes you feel like you're very intelligent because there's always something putting you under pressure.
Yes,
There's
yes.
always something critical. But with
Yeah.
corporate, it does get critical, but it's always admin technicalities. It's never the law critical.
Oh, okay. I get
Yeah,
what
so
you
I
mean.
miss
get
that
what you
urge of
mean.
the law critical where we are questioning section 189 and then everyone is running around,
Yeah.
everyone is chasing briefs and all of that. So yeah, that's been the transition.
I love that. And would you like to guess my final question for you?
What are you going to ask? I don't know.
It's a very important one. Where are the pots?
Which pots?
I don't know. It's one of the most famous questions, and it's still unanswered. So I was just thinking, maybe you're the first person we should have. Maybe you know the answer. Maybe you've been dying to tell us the whole time, ever since we saw it on SAPC2. You're like, I know where the pots are. You should have asked me. Like, where do you know? You don't know.
I don't know where the pots are. Well, maybe they're at La Creuset store. I don't know. I don't know where the pots are, but yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. It's been lovely speaking to you. It's weird. I started off this whole thing with a lot of nerves. But again, you have a calming voice. You have a very beautiful voice. You have a beautiful story. I was really noticing certain things, even when I asked you a question and then you paused to thank people. I'm like, hey, we're not here for them. We're here for you. We're not here. But it was just lovely seeing how aware you are of a lot of things that I think people take themselves too seriously miss. And I think your platform has been very, very beautiful.
Sure.
The information, the pace, it feels like home for a lot of people. And thank you. You're doing a great job. And
thank
I
you
think,
so much.
I mean, the subscribers are a testament to that. And I think just you coming from a place of, I want to share knowledge, that's actually the best thing about it. The fact that you bring people over. Sometimes some people will be sitting on gold, the information that they have, and they don't want to bring it to us. And like you've said, you've tried to like bring people on despite delays, despite their discomfort. And I think you pushing those boundaries has been very important. I hope one day you multiply your podcast, like you podcast and chill. You can have like mini networks. I'll host the most non-serious one because I'm not about to be serious.
Yeah.
But I think, I'm not even trying to like push you towards a certain direction, but I really see this becoming that sort of, I see this platform becoming that big, particularly because it's so useful.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And is there anything you'd like to tell everyone to close off the show?
Thank you so much. Funny enough, I was so nervous because you sent me that McG photo. So I thought you were going to pull a McG on me.
Oh, no.
I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my God, he's coming with McG
I mean, we're
energy.
still rolling, so we haven't gone off. Actually, no, we're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it.
So I was so nervous, but thank you. You actually calmed me down more than anything. Thank you for always being a safe space for me. Like, you're my mom's favorite person.
It's weird, guys. I've never met Yvonne's mom, and I'm like, Yvonne keeps lying about me and telling her mom I'm amazing. Her mom is gonna meet me and be like,
What's going on?
like, what's going on? Like, but thank you, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being in my life. Thank you so much for always holding space for me. And thank you for doing this. Thoroughly enjoyed it. To everybody at home, I hope this season was everything you expected it to be. If you expect more, you need more, send me DMs, guys, on the Employment Wednesday page on Instagram. You can also send an email to info@employmentwednesdays.co.za. I'm happy to consider your ideas and everything, but it's been so great. It's been so beautiful, so fulfilling, and happy Employment Wednesdays. Happy December season. Be safe. Show each other love, share light, do not drink and drive. And more than anything, man, don't forget to be love and light. Always remember you are not alone. You are gracefully anchored. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment.
And
Cheers.
take leave.
Yes, and take your leave.
Take
your
leave.
leave. Cheers, guys.